Zod then brags about being bred.
I was bred to be a warrior, Cap.
Mate, keep that to yourself. So, I recently did a mini marathon of DCEU movies with my girlfriend, because I apparently do not value our precious, finite time on Earth. Naturally, this began with Man of Steel. While I remember disliking the movie when I last watched it years ago, I actually found I like it even less than I thought on a rewatch. Actually, it's the type of movie I enjoy watching the least. Now, I don't mean it's some truly awful movie like Madam Web or The Room or whatever. Nothing about it is really offensive, I don't think, and I can see why people like it so much. But to me, it's just so boring. It is a dull slog with a flat main character, a flat love interest, a flat supporting cast, and a villain that is actually pretty great. I love you, Michael Shannon. I love you, Michael Shannon.
But how come you keep saying it twice? And how come when the second time you say it, you kind of say it like somber and to yourself?
Despite that though, one strength I remembered the film having was the fight scenes. And so the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, hey, at least there's that cool fight at the end. And so finally I got to that part, and I mostly did enjoy it, except for one glaring issue. One fatal flaw that stops it from being truly great. So hey, why don't we check it out and give it a review? I'll give some context, and then a summary, and then we'll take a look at what is good about it, and then we will discuss that super mysterious thing that holds the fight back. Then we'll wrap it all up with a conclusion. Sound good? Great, let's do this. Zod and his merry gang of H.R. Geiger concepts are attempting to terraform Earth with their 2010's blue laser machine. They're also trying to steal a genetic code from Superman's DNA that would allow them to continue the Kryptonian race. Superman successfully destroys the world engine and sends all of Zod's goobers to the Phantom Zone. He manages this with the help of the US military, who must have been told the Kryptonians had oil aboard their ship. Zod, now distraught that his whole race has ended, as well as the fact that he's the only person in this movie with a personality, decides he's going to send Superman to the Dead Guy Zone and destroy the whole planet. If you recall, that's where we live, so that's really mean of him.
But you know, I'm just going to come out and say it. This guy's a real jerk.
Now that we have that context, let's summarise the fight. Just before the fight starts, Zod gives a sorrowful and anguished monologue that really makes you feel sympathetic for the pain that he feels. You know, he just lost his people, his whole life's purpose. I mean, man, heavy, heavy stuff. I'm sure Superman is going to just feel emotionally torn hearing all this stuff. Oh, okay then. Zod does not appreciate Superman's mogging and attacks, and we have a tussle on our hands. They do an injustice clash and end up in an office building where Zod begins to suffer with some premature eye zapulation. That is going to go down really badly with HR, so they both head off. Now on the streets below, Zod kicks a truck that is apparently carrying explosives in it, because when Superman heroically avoids it and allows it to hit the parking complex behind him, it blows up the building Dark Knight style. The two start exchanging in some blows, with Zod getting the upper hand with an uppercut, sending Supes careening into the building of great sound design. Zod does this insane gorilla run up the building, with him and Clark clashing in the middle. Zod is flung off to a construction site, which I imagine there will be a lot more of in Metropolis after this fight. Zod then brags about being bred.
I was bred to be a warrior, Cap.
Mate, keep that to yourself. He then hones his senses in order to fly, making this a much more even fight. The scuffle takes to the sky, and we get this classic shot, led by Zod flying off and hiding from a man with X-ray vision and super hearing. This helps Zod get the jump on Supes, and this leads to him hitting a mid-air spinneroonie and sending Superman through some more buildings. Oh my god, there is going to be COVID levels of remote work in Metropolis after this. Zod flies Superman up into space, and they bring a satellite back down with them, eventually crash landing through the roof of a building. Superman finally gets the upper hand by getting Zod in a headlock. Zod has gamer rage about losing though, and tries to homeland this family who don't seem to understand they are in a 3D space and could run this way. But then again, I've never had an alien try and chop me in half with his eye beams, so I can't say I would react any better. With no other choice, Superman does this. And that's the fight. So let's start with the positives. This fight knows how powerful the combatants are, and you see that for every moment of the fight. Every punch leaves a huge shockwave or sends someone flying. Every move damages the area they're fighting in, sometimes just due to the sheer force of them clashing. They fly with unbelievable momentum, speed and agility, darting between buildings in an instant. There's just so much kinetic energy and force throughout this whole fight, and it leads to this battle of the gods kind of showdown that is pretty impressive as far as sheer spectacle goes. This is something I think the fight actually does a little bit better than the newer Superman, which I do prefer by a long shot as a movie, but in that one the powers seem to be intentionally pulled back a little bit to make Superman a bit more grounded. This whole Battle of the Gods thing goes hand in hand with the choreography, which I think is pretty fun. There's some cool set pieces sprinkled through the fight, like the clash on the building, the flying section, going up into space and coming back down. This fight does a good job of keeping the action fresh and putting the combatants into new scenarios constantly. This does the job of making the fight feel grand, sweeping and, epic. I think the fight also looks decent enough. I'm not always on board with Zack Snyder's visual style, but at least he actually has one, as compared to some of the flat, ugly movies and shows we get nowadays. I also really enjoy a lot of the ways the action is shot. As mentioned previously, this over-the-shoulders one is iconic, and it just wouldn't be if not for the dynamic camera movement, because all that's happening is that he's just flying and punching. It's just shot in a way that makes it feel so much more energetic. I also love how close we get to Superman as he weaves through buildings at lightning speed. Again, it's so full of energy and really immerses you, and makes you feel the speed and agility on show. The special effects are also perfectly solid. There's a little bit of jank here and there, like clearly this armor is CG, but I think the special effects are more than acceptable overall. The last thing I like a lot about this fight is something I've been mentioning throughout the video, but that's Michael Shannon. I love you, Michael Shannon. He just elevates every bit of dialogue in this scene with his acting, even when it's kind of generic and hammy. If you just watch this fight on its own, you would think he was the main character of the movie. Zod comes across sympathetically, but also totally insane, and he makes for a very engaging antagonist. The way his warrior upbringing leads him to honing his powers and abilities in rapid time during this fight is a really cool touch, and it's a great way to up the danger and physical stakes. To be honest though, I would have liked to have seen that actually expanded on a little bit more, because it seems like he learns to fly and then he gets his neck pretzel 40 seconds later. You should have stuck to the ground, pal. Probably also worth mentioning, I'm not against Superman killing if he really has to. The movie could have maybe done a better job justifying it, but the idea itself I'm not against, and I don't think this is a fatal flaw of this fight. I'm also not against the massive level of destruction in theory. It sells the enormous power of the characters involved. The issue in practice, however, is how one of the characters reacts to the destruction, but I'll touch on that later. But that leads me into what I think is the big flaw that holds this fight back: Superman. I think Superman holds this fight back in a few ways that we're now going to talk about. Starting with, firstly, Superman seems to have no emotional investment in this fight until very suddenly at the end. Now, earlier I made a joke about Superman's mogging, but I am being serious. This guy is being so nonchalant. There's not really much back and forth between him and Zod, apart from saying one thing at the beginning and one thing at the end. That's literally it. While Zod is mourning the loss of his entire race at the start of the fight, Superman is looking at him like he's just watching paint dry.
And now, I have no people.
And the only thing he has to say to Zod is,
You're a monster, Zod. And I'm gonna stop you.
I'm sorry, which one of these guys was meant to be raised on Earth again? They have no chemistry as opponents at all, and Superman only starts to show any emotion right at the end, which I find disappointing, especially because it feels like it came out of nowhere. In my view, a fight works best when both combatants have emotional stakes in the fight. Invincible vs Omni-Man is so compelling, not just because Omni-Man and Mark are really strong and causing a bunch of destruction, but because we know what this fight means for for both of them, especially Mark. Mark has had his whole world flipped upside down at this point, and you can see that he's emotionally wrought throughout the whole fight. He is desperate and scratching and clawing to stop his dad and protect everyone on Earth. And every life lost in this fight impacts him deeply. Now imagine for a second, every time a building fell or a person was killed, Invincible was just completely ignoring it and didn't seem to care. He feels nothing much about it either way and is just focused on fighting his dad. That is until right at the end where his dad threatens one family in front of him, and only then Mark becomes really upset. How weird would that be? And yes, you could say, well, there isn't really a moment or opportunity where Superman can interact with any of the people dying in this fight until right at the end. Yeah? Well, it's a movie. Write that into the script. I absolutely think if you're going to have a fight with this much death and destruction, the hero should have to come face to face with it throughout the fight. If you want to do a darker Superman story, that means facing the implications of having demigods fighting in a city full of mortal people. Now, yeah, they explore all this in Batman vs Superman, but that's not this movie. This movie doesn't get brownie points for something the next movie does. It hurts the fight as a whole when the protagonist barely seems to give a shit, especially when it's contrasted by us feeling more sympathy for the eugenicist dictator he is fighting. You can tell Zod is feeling the pain of losing his people during this fight and is angry and mourning. He is acting in line with the character we have seen for the rest of the movie, and his emotions and actions during this fight make sense for his character. And that just cannot be said for Superman. Why are you making me root for Space Hitler, man? Sadly, this issue also seeps into the choreography of the fight too. Like I said earlier, the choreography in this fight is good on a technical level. I just don't think it's quite the right fit for Superman. It is so strange that at no point in this fight is Superman trying to minimise the death or destruction this fight is causing. If anything, he's complicit in it, though obviously to a much lesser degree than Zod is. Like, yeah, Batman was totally right to take issue with this in the sequel. This is, like, apocalyptic. Hooray, guys! Superman has saved what used to be Metropolis. No, but seriously, wouldn't it raise the stakes if Superman was having to juggle saving the people of Metropolis with fighting Zod? I mean, we all like a little bit of rescue slop here and there, right? Now, this is a weird example, but stick with me. Remember that time King Kong fought those 3 dinosaurs in the 2005 movie? That's a really great scene, right? Well, that scene would not be half as good if it wasn't for the fact that the whole time Kong is having to fight against unfair odds, he's also having to protect someone's life. For a lot of the fight, he's having to do it all one-handed, and it just goes to show how noble and brave he is that he would do this. I get chills every time I get to the part where he uses his own arm to protect Anne, and you can see the pain on his face, but he just keeps going. And to just step out for some perspective, I'm currently explaining to you that a giant CGI gorilla conveys more character in his actions than this real, living, breathing human. And the thing is, I'm not even saying Superman has to be successful in saving everyone. You are allowed to tell a dark story where the hero has to come face to face with failure and not being able to protect everyone, but just have the person who's meant to be a hero at least attempt to be a hero. But that's the trouble. This fight isn't interested in showing us anything about Superman other than that he's really strong and so cool. He doesn't have, like, a unique fighting style. He's not especially creative or quick thinking like David Corenswet's Superman. He just wins by getting kind of lucky. He just gets fortunate with how they land after coming back from space. He didn't do anything in particular to earn the win in a way that's very Superman-like. There's not any points in the fight where he has to persevere in any meaningful way. He isn't heavily injured during the fight or anything like that. He just wins because the hero is supposed to win at the end of a movie. This seems especially strange because Zod is the one who was bred to be a warrior. Like, Superman should absolutely have to do something clever in order to beat this guy in a one-on-one fight. especially as Zod gets more and more adjusted to his abilities throughout the fight. Like, yeah, you could maybe say that Superman wins because he has more experience with his powers, but I just wish the fight conveyed that a little bit more rather than it just being a headcanon, pretty much. Maybe Superman could have pulled out a trick with his X-ray vision or freeze breath that only he would know about thanks to his extended time on Earth. I don't know, just something to add a bit of depth to this fight on Superman's end would go a long way in my opinion. Zod has this like mini arc where he's getting more and more comfortable with his abilities, and there's just nothing like that on Superman's side. So in conclusion, yes, this is a good fight scene with an impressive amount of spectacle and scale and fun choreography. Like, I'm not watching this and being bored. It's fun, it's cool. This is that fight that you watch on YouTube when it pops up in your recommended feed, because it's just like badass and entertaining, and it's got hype moments and aura. As I've said a couple of times, Michael Shannon is the man and working his ass off here, and Zod is a highlight of this movie in general, but I feel like him not having a worthy enough dance partner holds the fight back from being something really special, and I think that's a darn tootin' shame. I've just now decided we're going to do a rating, and I'll rate this fight 7 Kryptonian penis prisons out of 10. This has been Chad Sandler. Let me know if there's any fights you want me to cover next, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.